get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. I got an action-packed solo show for you guys here today because, like I said, I'm trying to incorporate a little more strategy back into the show. So today we're going to be, I'm going to show you guys how I personally read a freight market. And then we're just going to break down a couple of headlines as well out there. But again, I think that what is very, I think like one of the big things for me when I really learned how to understand how the market actually works is there's really not that much of a change out there. And I think that when you're out there and you're looking to onboard business, like I say, you're going to go in there, you're going to start out in the spot market more times than not. All right. I want to preface that. I'm not saying that you can't get RFP freight. I'm not saying that you can't get contracted freight and all of that stuff. I'm just bringing to you guys where my experiences have lied out there. And that is where you're going to start off in a spot market opportunity, and it's going to be a truck in hand and everything else. And again, a lot of this is predicated on, is it a last minute shipment Friday night? What's the transit time and everything else? But the information that I'm going to show you guys here is going to be, we're going to call it perfect world scenario, right? It's going to pick up on a Monday or a Tuesday, and it's going to deliver on a Wednesday or a Thursday. It's going to be first come, first serve shipper and receiver and everything else. Because again, I just want to teach you guys how to read said markets out there. And I use DAT a lot in my business, as a lot of you guys do. And for me, it's the amount of data that goes through there. And that is why I think that it's imperative to have a company like DAT utilizing their load board and then utilizing their suite of services out there to really understand what's going on. Because my big thing, I want people to try and remove the emotion of, we got to move this shipment and we got to move it right now mentality from this, because I want you, because like that's very transactional in that approach. I want you guys to start thinking long-term, because anytime I bid on a shipment, I have the full intentions of me owning that lane for that shipper for the foreseeable future until the end of time. And you're going to do that with the very first shipment out there. So we're going to just go in here. And again, this is all perfect world scenarios here, you guys. And we're just going to talk Atlanta to Dallas. This is a very high volume lane that's out there. And to all of my drivers who are watching this right now, no, I am not advocating for cheap freight. I understand you might see some of this stuff and be like, that's way too cheap. I get all of that, but my points are going to be the same no matter what out there. So if we're looking at this, you guys, I always like to look at lanes on a 90-day average, all right? Especially if I'm starting out new for them. So if I'm looking at this, again, we're looking 90 days, we'll round that up, $1,300 on Atlanta to Dallas. And then the last 15 days, $1,300. And then the 7-day average, $1,350 is what we're looking at. But again, it still falls under that 90-day average of $1,300 a time is what you should pay a truck out there. And again, this is perfect world scenarios. I understand the nuances that it might be last minute, it might be extended transit time, all of that stuff. I get that. This is perfect world. And then again, if you go down here and you pull this out here, all right, so in October, 1340 was the average. September, we'll round that up to 1300. August, we'll round that up to 1300. Now, back in July, it increased about $100, right? What can we say was going on? There's a holiday during that time. Back in June, it was 1450. I believe Blitz Week was around that time as well. But again, those are peak seasons for dry van freight, because again, this is for a dry van out here is that we're looking at. And then again, if you go back to April, back down to 1300, right? So we had a 90-day period where rates went between 14 and 1450 out there. And then again, it dropped back down. But again, if we look at the rolling 12, 1325 is the rate on that lane, is the rolling 12. And again, so you could argue 1300. And if you're out there and you're finding those core carriers, they're going to keep consistent pricing out there. And I look at this where, all right, so if I'm going in there and again, I want to offer a contract-esque rate to my customers. I want to keep consistent pricing out there for them, because again, I feel like that's the easiest way to balance it out there. So anytime a load comes in, because again, if you don't have the money to do auto quotes and everything else, because like I like to still quote my customers out. I don't want the bots to do that at this time, but I also want to offer consistent pricing. Now, when I look at this and I look at the last 12 months, 1300 is probably what I'm going to pay the majority of the time. There was that 90-day pocket where it got up to like 1450 and everything else. But again, I would want to bake that into my pricing strategy as I'm going forward, where it's like, hey, I'm going to hold this firm at, whether you want to quote 10%, 15%, whatever your rate, your margin percentage is that you're trying to go after, you're going to bake that in knowing that there's going to be pockets of time where you're not going to make as much money on it. But again, it's a volume play. That's where brokers are going to make the majority of their money. Where my hope is if I'm moving Atlanta to Dallas for this customer, Atlanta to Houston is going to be an opportunity. Atlanta to San Antonio, Atlanta to Oklahoma City. There's going to be a volume play that comes along with this. But again, to look at it, and a lot of people might want to sit here and say that there's volatility in the market. There's pockets of volatility that happen. And you need to be out there monitoring and looking at it for the long term. So if you're new with the shipper, all right, and then if you guys have access to DAT, whether it's, and I just pulled up DAT today, but if you have, maybe you just have Truck Stop, maybe you just have Triumph, or excuse me, Green Screens. Sorry, they're Triumph now, but if you have that, you guys, there's a lot of data that's out there that you guys can play in and look at and reference as you're pricing that stuff. Because if you look at it and think that it's always going to be an elevated price, or it's always going to be moved at say $1,300 like this one, you're just going to be vastly mistaken. But again, if you're looking at it and you're bringing in the mentality that I take with a lot of this here, and I'll remove this from the stream, it didn't change that much, right? So if I'm moving forward, and now again, you got to account that holiday season, you look at Thanksgiving that's coming up, Christmas that's coming up. So you might look and be like, hey, probably going to increase around that time. So my margin percentage might get compressed during that. But again, if we're looking at the 90-day or the 6-month or the 12-month, I know that rate on Atlanta to Dallas should be at about $1,300. And again, if you are out there and you are sourcing the same capacity time and time again, realistically, you're going to find somebody to run that at $1,300 every single time. And they understand, the right carriers, not every carrier, but the right carriers out there are going to understand this key point. Hey, we get it when that we could get a little bit more money out there due to like surge pricing and everything else. But we also understand that when we're booking freight with Chris, and he's paying us $1,300, we know that there's other brokers and other providers that want to try and pay $12, that are trying to compress it, right? So it's that balance. I have just found that this has been the most effective way to build a sustainable book of business, whether it's with a carrier base or a customer base, is delivering that consistent pricing out there. And again, if you look at this, you guys, DAT has the most data, to my knowledge, that's out there. And everything that we're pulling is shown about $1,300 on that lane for the last 12 months. And my prediction kind of moving forward is the market's not going to change that much here into 2026. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But you should have all the confidence in the world to price that and then know that, hey, there's going to be pockets of volatility, tightened capacity around holidays and peak times. But overall, you don't need to change your pricing that often. All right. So if you're going through there and building it up, that's how I do it. But again, that's how I also read these markets. I look at a lot of what's going on right now, and I have a high confidence that the market's not going to change as much moving forward as a lot of people want to kind of put out there. Right. So that's just something that I'm going to be incorporating a lot more here coming up. You guys, like I said, I may or may not have a potential data partner that's going to be the official data partner coming up. That announcement's going to potentially be in the near future. But again, you guys, at the end of the day, nothing of what I just showed you is like proprietary, but you can take that and understand to read trend lines a little bit better. And you guys can deliver that to your customers out there, because trust me, you guys, there's a more, like I was just at the LTNA conference this last week here. They had a shipper out there speaking, and his facility ships 200 shipments a day, right? Like that's a lot of freight, 200 shipments a day from one facility. There's enough for us all to eat with. And if that helps you in your business, you guys, I hope it does, right? I hope even the carriers can look at that and they can help price their freight a little bit more consistent, and try and minimize the volatility that comes along, especially in the beginning phases of it. Because in a perfect world, you guys, you're going to find great customers. They're going to give you consistent business right away. But again, you got to fight off a lot of the competition, and that's going to come in the form of consistency. So again, you guys go out there and try and find it. Look at that. Study those lanes just a little bit more so you can have a better understanding of knowing that there's going to be pockets of volatility. But if you're building your carrier base out there the way you should, those pockets of volatility are extremely minimized, because they know the inverse, right? Like they know they could possibly go out there and get more margin during those surge peak times, but they also understand the inverse of when it's soft out there, that people are out there trying to move it for exponentially less. So you can deliver that consistent pricing out there. Again, you guys, this is just what I personally apply inside of my operations out there. But let's get into some articles here. Oh, sorry, I got to get my caffeine surge in here early because I like to sleep at night. But anyways, you guys, first article we're going to break down, and I got a lot of opinions on this one. This is from overdriveonline.com. Broker threatens to sue carrier over nonsensical back solicitation claim. Now, back solicitation is never a good thing. And I'm not trying to sit here and say that it is, because yes, we put a lot of time and resources in there to gain people's business, and back solicitation is never a good thing, but you should never prohibit, like there's no, like contracts aren't worth the paper they're printed on here in this industry, you guys. And the deeper you get into this industry, you'll kind of understand that, because it's a free market at the end of the day. But a small fleet, Eagle Express, based out of Canton, Michigan, was hauling loads for a broker for a large shipper, and then received an email from that broker threatening legal action. The broker claimed the carrier was under contract to not back solicit the shipper, which is, accept loads from the shipper or other brokers after the broker's involvement, and warned of a lawsuit if the carrier took business from that shipper outside of the broker's involvement. The carrier's owner, Leander Richmond, challenged the broker's position, arguing that the clause treated the shipper's loads as the broker's property, that the carrier had hauled for the same shipper via other brokers for years, and that the broker had itself defaulted on timely payment to the carrier, one load unpaid after 64, others 42 and 54 days. The broker COO later indicated the broker's relationship with the shipper was terminated, and said the legal threat was more of a scare tactic directed at the carrier after losing the shipper contract. Richmond views such no back solicitation clauses as unfair to carriers, limiting their ability to pursue direct business or work with other brokers, while the brokers attempt to retain control over lanes and the shippers even after the load is done. when it comes to, I view back solicitation as this. I give carrier A load to pick up in Arizona, going to El Paso, Texas. The driver goes in, gets loaded, tells said shipper, hey, I run this lane often. You should just give me the freight directly. I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday. That to me is a back solicitation, not carrier A picks up load from Phoenix to El Paso for Freight Coach Logistics, and then also comes in on Wednesday and picks up exact same load for ABC Broker from Phoenix to El Paso. That's not back solicitation out there. I don't own all of my customers' outbound freight. And again, I don't know all of the details of said lawsuit. This is just based on the information that I'm seeing in the article here. That clause is like grossly overreaching, in my opinion. And that is why this lawsuit came, because like clauses are real. Contracts are very real. As a business owner, and I've talked about it on the show numerous times, like you need to have operating agreements that are in place, but like you can't impede a carrier and you can't have the verbiage inside of there stating that you own the all of that shipper's freight. Like you don't at all. I also look at it as some of these clauses are in there from a back solicitation, but again, based on what I had saw in this article compared to what I view a back solicitation actually is, I think it's two very different things. I think in this specific example, it was potentially prohibiting the carrier from moving freight at all, right? And again, I understand everybody's stance that, oh, you should read your contracts and everything else, and you very well should. But again, you can't like slip this shit in there. And then especially knowing that like this might be a smaller company or, everything else. I don't know. I just don't think of it. I don't like the verbiage in that one. For carriers, being threatened with legal action by broker adds, risk and uncertainty, especially when the carrier is already handling equipment, liability, and operational expense. I look at it like this. I work with plenty of carriers who have picked up at my customer's facility for other brokers in the past. Again, that's my customer's decision to tender that freight out. Who they work with has nothing to do with me. I look at it that it's one of those things that, again, if I think like we're comparing apples to oranges, because yes, back solicitation is a bad thing from this standpoint. If, like I had described earlier, I give a load to carrier A to pick up from Phoenix to El Paso, and then the carrier is directly soliciting from that shipper, that's a problem, right? Because like I invested time, I invested resources, sweat equity, all of that stuff that comes along to build that relationship. That's very different than me having a clause in there that says that you can only haul for me with my shippers. And then if broker B has exact same load for the same mutual customer, that you can't haul from them. I think it's comparing apples to oranges, and you can't stop somebody from earning a living out there. And again, I think like, again, because it boils down to this, my relationship with my shipper is between me and my shipper. Whomever else they work with is irrelevant to me. I can't control that. I can only control my controllables out there. And, I just also look at it it's like, this is what I mean by like brokers don't do ourselves any favors in the market at all, because like we're trying to exert like power over a lot of these situations, right? Like we don't control as much as we want people to think we control, right? And I can catch some heat from saying this, but again, you guys, like brokers can be replaced pretty easy. All right. Like I understand that brokers are needed in the market. I'm kind of hedging my entire future on building a brokerage out there, but like I feel like there's this sentiment from the brokerage community that they don't need carriers at all. They don't need favorable terms for carriers. And again, this isn't everybody, right? But I look at it is like in my operation in particular, and again, I only speak for Chris Jolly and my company at the end of the day. I need carriers very bad to run my business, right? And I'm still waiting for that freight broker to come in that can build a business as a freight broker without trucks. I can't find it, right? So I don't understand why you would make it harder for somebody to work with you. On the contrary, you should be doing everything in your power to keep the right carriers hauling your customers' freight, because ultimately that's going to lead to more business long-term out there. So again, back solicitation, as I described, is a terrible thing in that sense of like where you give a load to the carrier, they go in and tell the shipper directly, hey, you should just give this freight to us. That's back solicitation. Not, there shouldn't be a clause in your contract that says I own Phoenix to El Paso for this shipper. And if you go in there and haul it for another broker who might be set up, we're going to sue you. Like that's bullshit, right? And kind of overall, it seems like they have a lot of other problems out there to be dealing with right now as well. And that just might be a last minute grab to try and salvage a business. But that article, overdriveonline.com, you guys. And again, we put all the links to the articles out there in the show notes, excuse me, and you guys can check it out. Again, I advocate for you guys to go out there and do your own research on these articles, read these, and just formulate your own opinion. All right. At the end of the day, you guys, this is just my opinion. I hope you guys are free thinkers. But next article, and again, this one is I don't know if this is going to go away anytime soon. I think if anything, it's going to only go deeper and deeper and deeper. This article is from FreightWaves, and it's the California CDL fight signals national enforcement scrutiny out there. The U.S. Department of Transportation, via the FMCSA, is taking aggressive action against California over how the state issues CDLs. An audit found tens of thousands of CDLs in California may not comply with federal rules. Some licenses were all allegedly issued to drivers who were ineligible or remained valid long after their legal immigration status expired. As a result, the DOT imposed an emergency rule that California must pause issuing non-domiciled CDLs and then re-review existing ones, revoke and reissue those that do not meet new strict criteria. There, obviously, the DOT is threatening to withhold funding, like $160 million. California disputes these claims. And then observers warn that the spotlight is on California now, but this could lead to a broader and more stringent federal enforcement across out there. You know, I look at this. I've already put my opinion out there on when it comes to the visa program and everything else, as long as they're doing it the right way and they're in accordance with the law, I have no problem with that, right? Work visas have been around for a very long time, and they're going to continue to be around for a very long time. My issue is how states can fraudulently issue CDLs, right? This isn't a partisan issue at all here, you guys. I think that finding 5 CDLs, that's one thing. Finding 5,000, that's a lot. 17,000 CDLs, you guys, were found to potentially be not valid. Think about that for a second. Like this is a safety risk. This is and this is something that I look at it where, in my honest opinion, based on the amount of stuff that I've seen, and again, and it's tough out there, you guys. It's tough for me to decipher kind of like what's real and what's not out there in today's environment with social media. But and again, this is why I'll always wait and pause to speak on issues, because like I kind of want to gather more and more facts. This is a bigger safety issue than I think most people are even looking into, because I know how to drive a truck. All right. Like my dad was a truck driver. I learned how to drive a manual transmission. I know how to do it. Does that mean I'm qualified? Not at all. Why are there loopholes that says that just because somebody has a CDL that they are eligible to drive a truck? And again, I'm not saying that they don't know how, but like if there's a chance that somebody can get behind the wheel of a semi and have a CDL and isn't qualified to drive said CDL, this is, in my opinion, and I hope Secretary Duffy sees this statement here, we should pause all issuances of CDLs for like 6 months minimum to understand like how deep does this actually go. And again, if they are able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything that they have is valid, they'll be fine, right? Like, I have to be able to prove that as a business owner here in the United States. I have to have a business license. I have to have a bunch of stuff that shows that, but I have all of my records readily available. So if our friends with the 3-letter agencies decided to knock on my door, I would be able to prove that I have a legal business here in this country. I think that when we're seeing this, and this is just one state, and again, I know that there's some red states in here, and this is why I'm saying this isn't a partisan issue. This isn't a left or a right, a red versus blue. This is a massive safety risk that is out here. And then again, I might be thinking a little bit too far down the line, but like, this is a matter of national security as well here, you guys. If you think about it, if you don't know who's driving your truck, what's not to say that they can't have ill intentions that come along with it if they're not qualified and everything else. And then again, I'm thinking out a little bit long term, and I could be overthinking this, but like, if you've ever read a book in history, if you want to cripple a country, you just fuck up their supply chain. That's the best way to do it, right? So it's like when I see some of this stuff that goes on out there, I think like this is a greater safety risk than people are even really bringing to light. And that's something that's why I want Secretary Duffy to pause all CDLs for like the next 6 months. And that number can be arbitrary on the length of time, but they have to get a grasp under this, because if there's one state that's doing it, there's probably some other states that are doing it as well. And I'm not ever going to advocate for more federal hands in our day-to-day lives out there. But when it comes to something like this, and like I've said, there has to be a set standard. Standards are a great thing that are out there. And you need to have a set standard on how, if you're going to do interstate transit at all, they should be held the exact same standard, whether it's in Florida, Texas, California, Minnesota, Illinois, Kansas, it doesn't matter. There should be no way that somebody should ever be able to possess a CDL or even a driver's license without having passed actual safety standards and tests out there. That should never be a thing. And the fact that it's this bad, and this is just what we know about, imagine all the people who are operating out here that we don't know about. The ones that, you know, the ones that are illegally driving trucks because like they don't care about the law. Like, we need to have strict standards. We need to have enforcement. Standards are a very good thing. And I look at it as like, how much better would that profession be? How much better, how much safer would our roadways be? And again, I'm not saying that every driver out there is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're breaking the law in any capacity, you need to be held accountable for that. Because again, as a business owner here in the United States of America, I have to abide by a certain set of rules and standards. Otherwise, I go to fucking jail. Everybody should be held to those same standards. That's why I think that there needs to be a pause on this for an extended period of time. It's not going to affect our ability to move commerce across state lines and operate, because guess what? The majority of people that are out there are doing the right thing. And that comes with visa holders and everything else. They're out here. They're legally operating. They're doing the right thing. But there's people out here who are not. And we need to stop that. We need to stop that. Because like, again, I just look at it as a major safety thing. It's a major safety thing. And then on top of it, you guys, I think it's a matter of national security at this point, because if we don't know that, if people are just handed out CDLs and everything else, like, you just don't know what could happen from that. And it has to be stopped. It really does. And anybody who's been in this industry for a very long time understands how bad it can be out there. And again, I think like it's going to take the entire industry to have this come to light. And, you know, I support Duffy in what they're doing in their efforts, right? Like, are they going to get everything perfect? Absolutely not. But like, it needs to be done. Are there going to be some ramifications that come down that are going to be unfavorable to some people? Yeah, that always happens. But I think for the greater good, they have to put a stop to this. And you know, I just look at it where, because obviously California is defending themselves. They say that they're, you know, compliant and stuff like that. Well, then prove it, right? And I think like we're kind of at that point with it when we're talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of CDLs. They should be able to prove that they're legal. They should be able to prove that their business is legal and legitimate, just like any law-abiding, tax-paying citizen here in the United States. We all have to be able to do that. I think like we just need a hard stop for an extended period of time to get this in line. Because I just look at it like long-term safety, long-term ramifications I don't think a lot of people can comprehend what would happen if like it was, hopefully it's not, but like if it is a matter of national security, how bad that could get. And I don't ever want to see it get to that point. Because again, if they're not qualified and they're just handed a CDL and there's no way to prove that they are able to drive said truck, it's a very bad thing. And we do not need any of that out there. Insurance rates are high enough. Think about this, you guys. I also look at it as you take it a little bit further down the road. If there's higher standards, higher compliance and everything else, then hopefully insurance companies can't charge as much and premiums would actually go down because of traffic fatalities and a bunch of stuff. And again, that might be a little pie in the sky from my perspective, but I just look at it as like standards are a good thing. And if that can be out there and then that makes the roadways safer and everything else. But again, I also look at it as no state should be able to issue a CDL that is different from any other state out there. I think that there has to be a set guideline and a set everything to come along with it, and standards need to be adhered to, and there has to be ramifications if you don't. But that article, you guys, was from freightwaves.com. It's going to be interesting to see what comes along with it. Again, I don't think that this issue is going away anytime soon. I think if anything, like I said, I hope Secretary Duffy goes as far as pausing any and all CDL issuances for an extended period of time to where they can get a full grasp on where is this pipeline coming from of people who are just given CDLs without, or again, if you're doing the right thing, you should have no problem showing that. I think we're kind of at this point with a lot of this stuff, but that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We do have guests coming on. Ironically, we got an insurance guy coming on tomorrow. But we do have that, you guys. We're going to get in there and we're going to continue to break this down. But as always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Hey, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when the